Yeah. Are you ready, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is the April 26th meeting of the City of Crescent Springs. Please rise for the pledge, and prayer. The pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, ask for your blessings upon this body that's gathered here this evening. Let us make good choices in what's the best for our city. Do this with clear minds and good hearts. We ask this in Christ our Lord. Amen. Roll call, please.
Brian Barclay.
Here.
Janine Dawes-Smith. Present. Mark Martinberger.
Here.
Carol Allen. Here. John Wiley.
Here.
Thank you very much. More things change and more they stay the same. We are here to talk about a council vacancy. I know there have been 3 interested parties that have responded via email. We'll give them each an opportunity to address council, and then we will ask if there's anybody else in the audience that would like to address council on that. Bob Mueller, Jeff Smith, and Chad Longbond are the 3 that have submitted their names. Gentlemen, anyone want to be first?
Didn't we go through this last time?
We did, but I don't think Chad was here last time.
Okay.
So Chad, you go first, and
I'm Chad. I am interested in hopefully filling out the council seat. I sat on council for 4 years prior, and being a small business owner with my business background, I have over 30 years in private business, from dealing with budgets to financing and dealing with business matters. So, and since the city is considered a business in the way it operates, I feel like I would be a good candidate for the position. And with my previous background, like I said, in business and dealing with politics past 4 years, I feel like I'd be a good position, and hopefully you will consider that. That's all I have. So.
does anybody have any questions for Chad?
Ms. Jan, I will ask you, we talked about this, as you are hired by the city of Crescent Springs.
Correct, I am hired by the city, and I do take care of their IT needs.
So,
Speak up.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So, would that be an issue where we would be violating, say, 6.73? I got the right one up here. It's called emollients.
Prior to me getting involved in the city, before I was on council, the first time I took office, we looked into that. Mr. Baker, we investigated that, and the Kentucky statute says on that, as long as a contract is in place before that person takes office, and if that contract does not change while that person is in office, there is no conflict of interest.
Okay, so my understanding is that these would be the returns from the office or the employment, usually in the form of compensation. Also, the knowledge of power, you would be payment or compensation for what you do.
Correct.
And there must be full disclosure of the company's directions and the total opening of the emollients that you would be receiving.
Correct, which is all outlined in a contract that the city has on file that was signed prior to me taking office.
Then I would request that we need that information, Mr. Baker.
You certainly have the right to request it. There's no issue with that.
Okay, so,
It's a contract.
okay.
It's not an employment agreement. It's
No.
a contract for service.
Correct,
At least that is my understanding.
correct.
So she's asking to see the contract. Does that affect us voting today?
That would be up to council. The resignation takes effect today because this is the first meeting called, or held, I should say, since the resignation was sent to April. So we would have 30 days from today.
It doesn't affect Chad running for the vacancy.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, the KRS that I have here is 6.731, General Standards of Conduct, penalties. Go down to number 4, use of public funds, hire personnel for his private gains or that of another, unless the use is authorized by law. Violation of this subscription is a Class A misdemeanor.
And once again, before I took office, prior to those 4 years that I was on council, Mr. Baker and we looked at that. And if that contract is in place prior to me taking office, and the price does not change while I'm in office, there is no conflict of interest. And the price has not changed. It's still the same.
There is a statute that addresses that specifically.
Okay.
And that's KRS 61.252. It's subsection 1A that says the prohibition of city officers and employees shall not apply to contracts entered into before an elected officer filed as a candidate for city office, before an appointed officer was appointed, or before an employee was hired. Provided that the contract is renewable, the prohibition shall apply to any renewal that occurs after the officer is elected or that the employee is hired unless the provisions of paragraph C apply, which points, I don't think it's a violation of the statute.
You don't believe it is a violation then?
I do not believe it's a violation, that's correct.
Oh, it is, so.
It is not a violation.
It is not a
It's
violation.
not, that's why it was my clarification on it. So the KRS was 61.252.
61.252.
Yeah, section.
1A, small a
1A.
parens.
And so we give them, I just looked that up for my own educational.
I'd be happy to send you a
And
copy.
thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chad?
So it's approved then that he can do that and still be employed for the city of Crescent Springs as our IT specialist.
The only conflict would be is if that contract was to come up for renewal or whatever reason, if the price was to change and the council had to vote on it while I was on council, I would have to recuse myself of that vote at that time because that is a clear conflict of interest.
Well, I'm glad that this is out and for the people to know, the right of the people to know.
Yes.
And I'm very much big on open records, openthebooks.com, every dime online in real time. And that's one of the issues that I basically am why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a world, the United States, getting all the cities and all the counties and all the people's salaries and what they make. It's quite a large project, but it is being done. If you don't get an opportunity to go into openthebooks.com, every dime online.
I'll take a look at it.
And look at it. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not. I've not heard that.
Get involved, because I've actually talked to the individual who has started the program, this was like 10 years back, and the information on the salaries that he has gathered has been very helpful. And many cities have just basically volunteered to put their salaries of who they pay and how they pay their staff. And I do believe we have that information here.
Well, that information is going to be on the books, should be on the website since I'm a vendor for the city. So,
And I would like to see that put on real books, openthebooks.com, every time online, real time. But in Kentucky, it's my understanding with the law, they did last year. I'm the only person that could ask for that type of information on salaries because I live in Kentucky, because the legislature, and I could be, hopefully I'm on the right track here. If you're from out of state, you can't do that. Because you're a resident of Kentucky, then you can get this open records and the cost of the salaries. Because when I talked to Andrew, which I did in person, on the phone, I should say, not in person, and he told me, he said, you'll have to, you be the one to have to find that information out to me, and I cannot do it.
oh, all right.
So, just for the record.
Got any other questions for me?
Any questions for Chad? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bob or Jeff, do either one of you two want to address council?
Hello again. Mayor, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, city staff. I'd previously sent you a bio. Nothing actually has changed. I just wanted to let folks know I am interested in filling a vacancy on council. Also planning to run for election in the fall. This would be, we think, my fourth term on council. Lifelong Northern Kentucky resident, lived in the city for over 40 years. Been married 45 years in October. 2 children, 1 grandchild. Graduate of Latin School, Northern and Xavier. Was at Kent County Police Department, employed 14 years. Then went to Procter & Gamble. Worked in mid-level management for 27 years. Managed managers as well as hourly employees, budgets, global sourcing and procurement was probably the bulk of my career. But certainly also did assignments in HR, finance, and accounting. Also served as a trainer and mentor to employees at P&G, as well as Xavier University, where I was a mentor of the MBA program. And then did a stint at St. Eve as director of procurement for a year after that. Been a licensed realtor since 1991, and currently serve on the Kentucky Association of Realtors Economic Development Committee. When I was on city council, was a member and then eventual chair of the Economic Development Committee, a member of the Crescent Springs Bill Hills Safety Committee, and was the leader of the RFP that when we put out the bid for police services that ultimately resulted in our contract with Villa Hills. I think I've mentioned this previously in terms of what I believe, I'm looking for a safe, livable community that's welcoming to all. I am a huge proponent of financial stewardship, and that includes that interest in economic development so that we can retain the businesses that we have that have, sort of built the city, as well as attract new businesses. I certainly believe in the highest ethical standards. So I would ask you again, for your vote for the vacancy. And I would say, yeah, do it for me because I've said I'm interested. Do it for yourselves if that, meets with some, needs you see on council. But as I thought about this, more importantly, do it for the residents, the business owners, the voters, the employees who depend on people who have experience, expertise, credentials, and want to serve. So I would say do it for them as much as anybody. So, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Bob?
Well, I think your experience is exceptional.
Thank you.
I know a little bit about you, that's it. And I think you'd be an excellent position to take our vacancy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. Jeff?
Hello, Jeff Smith, resident of Crescent Springs for 35 years. I came before you all a couple months ago and advised of my qualifications, and I'm sure most of you all, if you were paying attention, you're aware of them. So I would ask that if you have any questions for me, go ahead and ask, but I would like to withdraw my bid for that council seat and throw my support towards Bob Mueller. So I do want to state that and just leave it at that.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, one other thing I just wanted to say, I know that the last council, or the last time they did meet, I think Mr. Barkley, you stated that you did like to see someone that was fresh, and I'm just curious, you all did vote for someone that was fresh, but he did resign immediately, apparently. I was just curious, can you advise of why that resignation was?
He said that something came up in his personal life.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
I have a point of privilege.
Sure.
Mr. Wilcoxon was our registered voter. That's documented.
Okay.
It would be, well, we're hoping we would take care of this a little bit later on when we do an ordinance of some sort.
We cannot require something above and beyond what the state statute requires. And the question of registered voter is a little cloudy on the way the statutes work, to be honest. But we can certainly I can take a deeper look at it before January and see what, if these KLC, perhaps if there's a case on it. I haven't seen a case on it, to be honest. so I'll take another look at it.
It seems to be a regular.
Age and citizenship, age and residency of the city are clearly required.
Correct.
And after that, it's really fun.
Yes, the research that I've done, it's kind of nebulous. And I've been working on my master and council meetings. Thank you, Mike, on yes, no, too. For the record. My homework.
I'd like to make a motion to elect Bob Miller.
One second, please. I said I was going to allow anybody that, is there anybody in the audience that has not spoken that would currently like to speak about the opening council position? Hearing none?
I'd like to make a motion to elect Bob Miller.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion on council? April, roll call, please.
Brian Barclay,
Yes.
Janine Bell Smith,
Yes.
Mark Rutenberger,
Yes.
Carol McGowan,
I'll decline the vote.
Don Riley,
Yes.
By 4-0 to 1 decline. Mr. Mueller, congratulations. You're back, you're back in. Well, you don't get to sit there.
There are forms to fill out.
You'll,
I'll give you a copy so you know what I'm saying. Great.
Well, if you've been in a duel, we're gonna have a real surprise.
I, Bob Miller, do solemnly swear,
I, Bob Miller, do solemnly swear,
or affirm as the case may be,
or as long as the case may be,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky so long as I continue a citizen thereof,
be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky so long as I continue a citizen thereof,
and that I will fully execute to the best of my ability
and that I will faithfully execute to the best of my ability
the office of City Council for the City of Crescent Springs according to law,
the office of City Council for the City of Crescent Springs according to law,
and according to the ordinances and regulations of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky,
and according to the ordinances and regulations of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky,
and I do further solemnly swear or affirm that
and I do further solemnly swear or affirm
since the adoption of the present Constitution,
since the adoption of the present Constitution,
I, being a citizen of this state,
I, being a citizen of this state,
have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state nor out of it,
have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state nor out of it,
nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons,
nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons,
nor have I acted as a second in carrying a challenge,
nor have I acted as a second in carrying a challenge,
nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help me God.
nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help me God.
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Duels have been outlawed since 1890, that's when the
And
Constitution.
then sit up there.
Well, you and I are old enough about it.
Speak for yourself.
Chair comfortable, are you all good? You ordered wrong, I want to make sure. Good deal. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from July 22nd council meeting. You all want to see those in your packets?
Make a motion to approve.
Do a second?
Are we talking about July 22nd?
Yes.
Is that going to be a pro tem chair or mayor? Whatever?
That's when we had someone run the meeting in my absence.
You know, what happened that day?
Ma'am, I'm looking for, we've got a first, Any discussion?
My point, thank you.
So first, to approve, is there a second?
Yes.
Second. Now, comments.
Sorry about that. Still working on learning the yesterday meetings. Election there. When, the way that meeting was conducted, the council never voted on Mr. Wertenberger to be the pro chair or pro champ, whatever you want to call him. We forgot to do that, right?
There was no roll call, but there were no objections.
And there were 3 votes. In essence.
I remember that, but,
There was a
well,
first, a second, and then Mr. Wartenberger presided, and no one objected. So
But we never took the vote.
carried 3, at least the 3 votes, which was a majority.
if you look at the record, but we did we did not vote. We
There was
did
not a
a
roll
motion.
call. I would dispute the conclusion there was no vote. There was not a roll call. I will agree.
Thank you. So there was not a roll call. That was my point, for the, that needs to be corrected. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Baker.
And that should be done next time. I would agree.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Brian Barclay,
Yes.
Janine Bell Smith,
Yes.
Mark Rittenberger,
Yes.
Carol McGowan,
Yes.
Don Kiley,
Yes.
Bob Mueller,
Stay.
First official vote. Your first official vote.
Fire Authority, Chief Wayne.
Good evening. 41 fire calls for July, 325 year-to-date. 112 ambulance calls, 705 year-to-date. The open house at the firehouse will be September 21st from noon to 4. Official invitations will go out. They will be back from the printer on September 4th. And it's already out on Facebook and other social media. So the ball is rolling there. We are having a punch list meeting September the 5th. We will go over the exterior and the interior deficiencies on that date, and likely all those deficiencies will not be complete by open house, but we are ready to move forward. The last thing I have is we did have to purchase $7,500 in radio upgrades, and quite simply, it's so that we can communicate with Cincinnati, and why that's important is we share the river. If we cannot communicate with them and the disaster network and the MARC system, it puts a big hindrance on us. So we did spend the money to upgrade the radios.
I have 2 points I'd like to bring up. I went to the fire meeting, and it's my understanding that there will be money returned to the cities probably.
Yes.
Okay, in other words, money that was returned that was held to help pay for the new firehouse. Second is when you have the open house, this is a point of clarification for administration probably to make on the 21st. It's also my understanding that politicians will be invited. I would like to include the politicians that were on the council at the time the firehouse was born from ground up. And most of us are on the list running for council. I personally don't think we should, if we go, we should not be there politicking. And is that proper, appropriate?
So the fire department has a very strong stance on, we don't support any political candidates. So even during our fish fries, when we had those, we did not allow politicians to politic.
So they can come and visit?
They can come and visit,
Politic.
just no stickers, signs.
Feel the same way, thank you.
And I'm glad you brought that up about, so it's my vision that we're going to have chairs set up with the people that were most critically involved in making the firehouse happen, and recognize them, because there were so many people between Villa Hills and Crescent Springs that met in so many meetings that it would be wrong on my part not to recognize them. So we will definitely make sure that everybody is recognized for all the work they did.
And Carol, I was going to bring up the coming back, the funds coming back, but just to put a number on it, it's approximately $200,000 the city, split between the cities.
Yeah.
Budget was 8.5 million. They about nailed 8.5 million right on the nose. The 200,000 came back because of interest in the way that the finance committee held money in certain places to accrue as much interest as absolutely possible. So approximately 200,000 split between the two cities is coming back.
That's right.
And that's a huge pat on the back for KO.
Yes,
I'd
absolutely.
like to give the different fire committees within to stay on top of biggest in concrete.
Thank you.
Making sure
That's
it's
a fun one.
not all cracked up.
Well, we're just waiting for the century closeout on that before we have a final number. Everything's squishy right now.
We will, on that September 5th meeting, we will know all the change fees. For instance, we paid to overlay the existing parking lot, which wasn't part of the original plan. All that is included, and that's considered in the $200,000. So.
The new sign and everything. Yeah, so it's.
Right.
We had 8.7, we budgeted 8.5, 2 months coming back, ballpark.
Right.
Well done.
Thank you.
I have a question, Brian. The 200,000 that's coming back from Crescent Springs, that's very positive news.
Not to Crescent Springs, I just want to clear that
Bill
up.
Hill.
Split between.
Yeah, I'm
the two
getting to that, let me get there, what we're on. Will that be a 40-60%? Bill Hill will get 60% of that money, and we will get 40%. That was my question.
Yes.
Yes.
Because that's what the contribution was.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you. Let me finish and now on, please.
Anything else from Chief? Chief, is all the concrete work fixed now or completed?
Yes and no. So the two problem spots we had in the front, Century took it on themselves to take it out, report. Since then, we have found some more cracks that we're not happy with. That will be part of the punch list that we go through on the 5th. So mostly, yes, it's fixed. We did get the extended 5-year warranty on any of the concrete that fails that we were not happy with. So instead of having a 1-year warranty, it is now 5. So there will be some more concrete that will come out and be repaired because it's a significant crack.
And the grading of the pooling has been fixed as well.
That part has been fixed,
Yeah,
yes.
It's holding water and it's just erodes the integrity of the ground.
Right.
Very good. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief Hall.
Good evening, everybody. Just to follow up on the event for the open house, I did want to let everybody know that overflow parking for the event will take place at the Crescent Springs Lou Hartfield Memorial Park. We will have a temporary crosswalk with police cruisers and lights and an officer directing traffic to be able to help pedestrians and everybody, visitors that want to come to it and safely cross Buttermilk Pike. So just kind of letting everybody know on that as well. Month of July, we had 1,334 calls to service. I provide the monthly update in comparison to the cities surround us.
He just turned the page.
You're just following right along with me. Okay, fair enough. All right, so all calls in Villa Hills, comparison percentage is 61% to Villa Hills, 39% to Crescent Springs. When you extrapolate all the dispatch calls, when it's just dispatch calls and you take out self-initiated, 51 calls to 51% to Villa Hills and 49% to Crescent Springs. The big difference there is the fire calls. There were more fire calls and squad calls to Villa Hills and Crescent Springs. We had 9 crimes, documented 22 traffic collisions, issued 40 citations, 16 warnings, 8 incident reports, 2 domestic reports, and 1 e-crisis forms. I provide a map of just basically a location pinpoint. I know I'm kind of touching base on this with Mr. Mueller on where our traffic citations have been issued, our criminal summons and our criminal arrest and juvenile arrest is our detainees, I should say. As I said, we had 22 traffic collisions. This is no shock to anybody. Buttermilk Pike, again, took the cake on all that. And I know I sound like a broken record every single month, but I mean, it's our stretch all the way through. Just to kind of give an update, I have requested and sent messages and phone calls to the state requesting some assistance on, one, the first thing is make sure the timing of the lights on Buttermilk Pike is appropriate. I know the traffic is a gigantic pain, so I want to make sure that the engineers are out there, make sure the timing is appropriate. My suggestion to them, because a lot of these crashes that you see are side swipes that happen basically between Anderson and the interstate or right past Grandview or Hazelwood, because people are doing side swipes and trying to switch lanes. So my suggestion to them, and again, this is a suggestion to the state because it's a state highway, is some signage overhead that says 75 south this lane, 75 north this lane, and also markings along the roadway as well, that big blue 75 north, 75 south. Just anything that we can help to our motorists to make a decision early on and to not last second be crisscrossing on each other, because that's where we see a lot of our crashes. So, sir.
Suggestion box around the area.
Yeah.
So people so on the south on ramp, there's like
On-ramp?
two straight and a turn, like two turn lanes, right? Like why isn't that like on the like whatever can work?
That's a whole different can of worms. I think it's a great idea. I think what's going to be the opposing issue is that left turn lane or that left turn. I mean, it's definitely worthy of a discussion. I think, and that's going to be the problem with it. But I mean, I think we're all well aware that that intersection is probably going to be undergoing a mass change within the near future, and I wish everybody but the best of luck.
How come some will allow you to turn left, like an arrow yellow or left, and some are full red the whole time?
That is strictly based upon the surveys that the engineers come up with and their timing. I don't have 100% I don't have their records on why they did that. But that is something I can absolutely try to get an answer on, to be quite honest with you. I think it has to do with when they do their surveys, and that's the pneumatic tubes that go across the roadway. They're calculating the number of vehicles over a certain amount of time. There's a lot of math and a lot of science that goes behind that. Again, I'm not an engineer.
Yeah, and I understand that they wouldn't show up in the test because it's like, I don't know, terrible road, but basically you're going towards Fort Mitchell, and you're trying to turn left in the Penn Station road. Like that, there's like 5 cars gets backed up and hits into the other lane, so that would show up a little speed bump thing.
Right, so you're talking about turning onto Buttermilk Crossing?
Yeah.
Okay, so that well, it's kind of like it's a differencing of the two offset wells. So to be able to have a long enough well to be able to turn left onto Anderson for all the tractor trailers that do.
Yeah, no, I get it, but yeah.
Why is your question why it's not a flashing yellow?
Yeah, that's all, like flashing yellow would help with that,
It would, because the likelihood is, and I don't make the decision on that, the likelihood is because of the curvature of the roadway and the downhill slope, because of a line of sight issue. Because it's a 2-lane turn, I get it, but I mean, that's always a suggestion I can bring up, because once that, and I agree with you, once you get 4 or 5 cars in that well, that left lane is stopped. They want to turn. So I am open for suggestions, and again, you guys obviously sit on council, you're more than welcome to send messages and emails to them as well. I am a bouncing soundboard, and I will certainly take up anything that you guys have with them and for suggestions. So.
Do you have any suggestion coming off 7175 southbound making the right? The middle lane is a right turn, left turn.
Mm-hmm.
The curb lane is a right turn.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything, considering the traffic that would be going straight, is there anything to do with that right-hand lane to keep folks into the innermost lane as they're turning right? Because that's the one that I see the most is...
State law already dictates that.
I understand, but do you think that can help? Is there like any, like, even if they're like, little bumps that are like this big?
The only what you very well, this is what happens when you can do that. The state law already dictates. The state's going to come back with saying, well, state law already dictates that you have to turn in your most immediate turn lane, and then you have to transition from lane to lane, obviously safely. And if you don't do so without properly signaled, that's obviously a violation. A suggestion that might occur is the big long yellow things that we see out here in front of Walgreens down the way. No, you could have it to where it's past the turn and in that lane to where people are kind of forced to it. So you still have your straight through lane. You could potentially have it down that way, and to keep them from going across.
Something less intrusive of trying to get all the way over, but enough to give somebody a pause.
Sure.
So
all worth suggestion. But once again, going back to what I just said, it's going to hopefully be rectified with a several years long project.
One idea that came up and was mentioned is that open house that Janine and I had gone to, that KYTC had put on back in the fall, I think of last year, was to make a dedicated lane that comes off of the interstate that is specific for Grandview and Speedway.
And I think that discussion kept on continuing. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think the Speedway project has kind of deadened some of that, because I think that was going to be encompassing with their super speedway or whatever that they were going to put in there. So I don't know. I think that would be definitely an option that we'd be supportive of. But again, it's whatever the state engineers come up with on that.
That's exactly what you're saying. I see it all the time as well.
Oh, no, yeah, I almost got it. I almost got it the other day because I was coming around, the light was green, and the car that was turning in the right-hand lane wanted my lane just as much as I did. And, you know, it just, I mean, people do it all the time because they want to get over to the left to go to those restaurants, the businesses, the gas stations, Chipotle, whatever.
Massive overpass straight over to Hazelwood.
Any other questions for the chief?
Sorry, I've got a little bit more. Sorry, I apologize, sir. I apologize. If anybody has specific questions, I'll go to our overtime. Our overtime, we did have 50 hours of overtime. 5 hours of that was in court. We had 5 on late calls or investigations. Field training was 6 hours. 10 hours of that was in shift coverage, and the major part was Fire in the Hills, which seems like it was so long ago, but that was in the month of July. So we appreciate everybody coming out for Fire in the Hills. You know, it's a great event with a great turnout. Just some department news. I'll run through that and then I'll finish my report, Mayor. I apologize. Officer Dooley and K9 Onyx, they did successfully complete their recertification with NAPWADA. No issues were pointed out. They passed with flying colors. We appreciate all their hard work and effort. We did order new duty pistols in red dots, which are basically, no, they're not lasers. I got this question in Villa Hills. It's basically a target acquisition point of us being able to come on target. If you're familiar with weapons at all, they have a back sight and a front sight. This is just something for officers, statistically speaking, and studies have shown in the event of a gun battle that they're on target and more efficient and more proficient with their firearms. That was purchased out of asset forfeiture, so obviously no hit to any general budget funds or concerns for either cities.
Define what asset forfeiture is that stuff you confiscated?
That is seized and confiscated money from investigations, drug, usually that comes from narcotic investigations, whether it be through Officer Dooley, officers on the road. Once things are seized, and it usually has to do with trafficking narcotics, once those funds are seized and they're logged into evidence, then there's a request made to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and through judge. The judges sign off that it is then turned over to the agency with a percentage going back to the Commonwealth Attorney as well. Follows all the rules of the asset forfeiture for the state of Kentucky.
So is there any movement on Rob Sanders using some of that money?
He is purchasing some canines as well.
Is he
Yes.
going to do it for us?
If I so request at the time given, yeah, we'll make that work. So I have not been I have not hit that roadblock by any way, shape, or form, but he is definitely working towards replacing the canines that are currently certified in marijuana detection. So. One of our cruisers was involved in an injury traffic collision out here on Buttermilk Pike by St. Joe's. Everybody was minor injury. Officer was okay. The vehicle, our vehicle, is not totaled, which I was really happy with. I know, and it is being repaired currently. There's that. We had Fire in the Hills event. I already mentioned that. We had the St. Joe's Festival. Thank you to everybody that came out. We provided security for that. We conducted 2 more. We've been in the process of conducting new hire interviews, laterals and new hire interviews. We had some start to go through, and we've based upon, and it's a process that works, our background investigations, and some have lost out of the process. But we did have 2 other interviews today, so we look to move forward to be able to get back to full staff as soon as possible. I held a department meeting for everybody. For the entire department, obviously that's what that means, and we assisted the Northern Kentucky Drug Strike Force with several search warrants and arrests on Wood Hill Court.
How's staff been looking beyond?
We are still 2 down from that, from our previous, departures. But I look to probably within the next month be back to full staff.
Councilperson Smith?
Yeah, I have a question.
I think you have
about the canine dog. And we're going to train a dog. We need a canine dog. Am I correct on that? And train it how to.
Right now, K9 Onyx and Officer Dooley. Onyx is about 7.5 years old. Now the working life is anywhere between 7 and 10 years. So he could go for a little bit while longer, but we just don't know, to be quite honest with you. So it is going to be a process for us to be able to determine and interview and find a handler first, somebody that is going to be able to keep this wonderful canine program that we have established. And Officer Dooley, I got to give all the credit to him that he has established on the rise, and to maintain the level of professionalism and efficiency that he's done. So that's the first step for us, to be able to find a handler, and then we'll work on the procurement of the dog.
Oh, you have a car.
The car, it has not been purchased yet, but it is allocated in our capital fund to purchase
Are
one.
we getting
Yes.
any help from the county attorney?
That's what Ms. McGowan was saying, as far as the Commonwealth attorney looks to provide the purchase, the actual dog itself. So not only on top of the dog, so you've got the cost of the dog. There's several costs that obviously go into the canine. The canine is one of the biggest purchases. The cruiser is the largest purchase, just because you have to buy a car and all the equipment and the fans and the hot systems, the cooling fans and the door pops and everything like that. We also provide runs and the housing for the canine, as well as fencing and stuff like that for their handler at their home, to be able to make sure the dog's provided for at the handler's residence.
This dog will be trained to detect marijuana, is that correct?
Not the new one, no.
No, the new one won't be?
No. We will not be. It is at the recommendation of Commonwealth Attorney Sanders that any new canines will not be imprinted on marijuana use, based upon the new cannabis law that goes into effect January 1st.
I'm not sure I stand on that. I mean, can I ask you, would it be a good thing to get these dogs trained to sniff out marijuana?
No, I think it would be a bad thing. And why that is because I think what you have is the dog doesn't know whether it's detecting marijuana, whether it's detecting methamphetamines, cocaine. Whatever he's imprinted on, he's detecting a narcotic. When he detects and he gives his tell, basically, he's saying, hey, handler, there is a narcotic in this drug. Whatever I've been trained on, I smell it. It doesn't know. The handler can't say, hey, dog, which one is it? It's not going to happen that way. So he's detecting whether it's marijuana, whatever be the case. Well, if he hits on marijuana and we get in the car and now we find drugs, more drugs, guns, money. We find Jimmy Hoffa's murderer. Anything that's potential of that, it could be fruit of the poisonous tree. And all that evidence is now gone. So it is at the recommendation of the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and Commonwealth Attorney Sanders, we do not imprint on marijuana.
Thank you.
So no worries.
Are you returning $200,000 to the city?
I will do my very best, but however, I am very envious and jealous of the new firehouse. I am going to throw it that way. Anybody that wants to come to my house, please, what's that, sir? Down the road.
Wait a couple of years.
I was member of the South Dakota Committee report, since you're standing here.
Sir.
This came up in our last meeting, and we were on vacation, Sergeant Black was there.
Yeah. Nuisance.
Basically a nuisance law ordinance for the city. They would like us to look into, I don't know else to look into it as well. I don't know if you can.
So, both cities have a nuisance ordinance on file, okay? The way that Villa Hills handles their nuisance complaints are a little bit different. Obviously, the city, Crescent Springs uses PDS, and they also have a code enforcement officer as well, and they also use the Kenton County Code Enforcement Board. The topic came up, it got some feet before it had legs, but I was just trying to look at, for the city of Crescent Springs, we have, and Villa Hills has it too, but if you have a property that it becomes what's determined as a nuisance property, let's say you have X amount of calls for service at a given location in X amount of time. Well, it's more defined in the City of Villa Hills regulations that there's an abatement process to try to rectify that situation, notice to cure to the property owner. And if that's not resolute, then that property owner is to come in and meet with the city administrator and myself, and we will come up with a resolution. We've had this happen at least 2, maybe 3 times in the past in Villa Hills, and we've had success with that. There are violations in Crescent Springs that are close to that, but it's not as defined as such. I think the idea was to be able to get both cities on the similar page as far as a rectification and holding property owners responsible for their property.
What we're talking nuisance as like criminal noise.
Repeat calls, like people assaulting police officers, being called to the same property 2 or 3 times.
What it would not do is it puts civil liens and civil penalties is what that goes on, but that is through PDS and through the Code Enforcement Board, not the police department to come in and we're evicting people. I don't want that to be confused, that the police department is in the business of evicting people, because we are not.
Mr. Daly, could you talk to Craig Bowman over in Villa Hills and look at their
I think we were already working on that.
nuisance law? And could we look into having ours mirror Villa Hills possibly?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Chief
you.
Ball and I have already
Discussed.
began that conversation.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Go for it, sir.
And with Onyx and everything else, it's National Canine Day, so.
Yes, it is. So we appreciate all his effort and Officer Dooley as well. So,
Onyx gonna come to the fire department open house?
yeah, if he's available, absolutely. He might be in training now. I'm not really sure. He's got some conferences.
Watch your sniffs.
Anybody else? Good. I'm just waiting for his word.
Anything else? Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, sir.
Public Works report.
Good afternoon. I'll make it quick here. Update on the playground. Where the playground equipment is going is prepped and ready, and we are in the process of cleaning up the area on the other side to just have the seating area with grass and just extra picnic area over on the other side. So that is in the process now, but the dirt for the playground equipment has been finished, and we're just waiting on our grant to come through for that. We have one current project right now, and that is the blacktop failure on Meadowwood. I'm sure everybody has seen the cones out there. We are working on it. We're working on our 3 quotes now. We've only got one. We're working to get the other ones. Yes.
Question there.
Yeah.
So clearly the long one in front of that person's house is the focus. But further down where Colonial Village and Meadowwood at that stop sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had just dug in underneath there and had a plate over it for months. When they came in, they filled it, and now it's sunk again.
Yeah, so I talked to the water district already on that one, and it is on their list to fix.
So it's not on us.
No, they had a water main break there, so when they took the plate up and put the blacktop in, that is failing, so they will come back and fix that. They actually fixed one in front of the firehouse on Western Reserve as well.
Okay, okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Street cleaning, I'm not sure if anybody's seen them out, but they are out. They were out today. They'll be out tomorrow to finish the city with street cleaning. The Panera Pond behind Panera Bread has been completed. Darren Martin has evaluated it. They passed it. Everything is good. And then they'll periodically just go out and check on it to make sure it stays dry the way it's supposed to be.
Quick question, who's Darren Martin?
He is with SD1.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. And there's just one other thing that I want to say that is not on here as well is I just want the residents and council and everyone to know that inside the fenced-in area at the playground is a construction zone, and it could be dangerous if someone went inside there. We do have signs up and fence around it, so we just want to make sure everybody stays out of there so everybody stays safe. So, and that's all I've got. You have any questions?
Yeah, I think I have one to bring up.
Sure.
I reached out to Mr. Daly with some pictures. Back in the Reserve of Meadowwood, they have already top coated and done all of that. And they haven't built house 1 on 2 full streets.
Yep.
And I mean, just the unloading and loading of tracked equipment, the trailer ramps slamming down, just the use on it already without the house being built. There's already gouges out of the blacktop and everything else. I know that there's not a whole lot based upon Mr. Naylor's research with PBS and everybody, that there's a whole lot that we can do about it. But can we stay on top of that and
Yep.
keep a review of what's happening there? Because as something takes a big gouge out of it, like as you're aware, there's a culvert that
Yes.
a giant cast iron culvert that's already, or steel culvert that's already snapped in half from trucks driving over curves and on grass and stuff, trying to maneuver back there.
Yeah,
So
so
I would just ask that we keep an eye on that to keep, their feet to the fire to keep it up, because when it's already on us for 45 days from the bond release, which had happened 50 days ago or so. It's now on the city to maintain those streets, and, I'm pretty sure that nobody wants to resurface a brand new road because it got done out of order.
right. And I know Mr. Daly and I and Greg Sketch, the city engineer, have been working on a solution and seeing if there's anything that we can do to keep them responsible for the road until it's finished.
I think the only thing that we can do is get out there every couple of weeks and just walk. So I walk every morning at like 5:30 in the morning. And one of my routes is every street back there because it winds up being just under 3 months. Perfect time for me. And I see it. And so, I mean, I can kind of watchdog it, but I think.
Now, we do travel the streets at least twice a week, so we've taken pictures ourselves out there as well. So yes, sir, we will definitely keep an eye on it.
Thank you.
Also, what Brian's referring to, it's not only one, it's two.
It's two, yes.
Culverts that are damaged. And like Director Miller mentioned, Greg, and Director Miller and I, we did reach out to the Wessels, and Bernie responded, and he went and directly emailed the Fisher group in there and take care of the damage that is taking place on the culverts. So
Did they put that in writing that they would take care of that?
it's in the email. And we'll stay on top of it, Carol.
Yeah.
I don't want to sign off
I know, just,
on that kind of damage, but the email is our document.
okay, we got an email.
So I have a question, is this because they're like finishing streets, like, you know, it's like 50% done, and 100% done, every car block?
Do you remember
So
what?
why are they doing it before the houses are done? I thought you had to wait till the houses were done.
No.
Apparently you do not. They do not have to wait until everything's done. Now, they waited, like for us on Carrick, they were first, they waited till the street was 100% done. I'm not entirely sure what prompted it being done, but he's within, the group is within the terms of the bond and the subdivision regulations to do it at any time.
There's nothing prohibiting the contractor from placing the final asphalt surface at any time, either before construction or after construction. And that has to do with all of Kent County subdivision regulations.
And they do have rules that I think that they bypassed when they broke one of the culverts. So that is being looked at by PDS as well. Because you have to have certain driveways. You have to have a gravel driveway in and out and not running over, you know, culverts and curbs and things like that.
And I will say, before a bond was released, PDS has developed a system where, for example, for Crescent Spring, we've done a few walkthroughs. Director Miller, Greg Sketch, Steve Burling from Burling Engineering, and we've done a walkthrough, like on a list. If we see things that are issues that they have to fix before we really truly release the bond itself.
Yes.
So there is a system in place. And in this situation, what you're referring to, up to this point, it seems as if the final surface was not put on until after the homes were built.
Especially on my.
You're correct.
You know, like, and yours halfway down, yeah.
No, I was like on the first of my section, it was like a year solid, at least.
Yeah, it's like a 3-inch drop.
I had 2 curbs I had to get over.
Yeah, yeah, we had the same thing at the top. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it would make sense, right, to do it at the end, but I'm guessing asphalt.
Right.
That just seems counterintuitive.
I believe the rule is you have to do it within a year or a year and a half, or two. There's a time you have to do it by.
Yeah.
But you can do it immediately, but there is a last date.
And what I'm guessing is it's such a short little stretch, and they probably, and this is just my theory, I'm sorry, they probably wanted to get it done before winter and get it in there. I'm not really sure though.
It looks like I'm going to be waiting for houses back there for a long time for some reason.
Yeah, they're not selling quick.
No, there's not a single construction tool back there besides what you put together with wood. That's it. Not heavy construction.
Yeah, they did that really quick, but.
Yeah, I didn't know it was done. I didn't know it. I was like, I mean, I don't really walk all the way back there. It seems dirty.
No, there's nothing.
Anything else for Director Miller?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
On the mayor's reports, what I have is on the playground, we've gotten in contact with the state, so we're trying to get on their September agenda. We turned in all the paperwork we need to do for the grant. As of I haven't answered today, there's no deficiencies that you know of yet of our paperwork, do you? Okay, so as of now, there's no deficiencies, anything we're missing, we're trying to stay on them with the adage of the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Lieutenant Governor came and presented us a very nice check that's out in the lobby. We'd like to see the money, we'd like to see that in cash flow.
So, I guess, so who's had, like, does Kentucky have one yet, or is it still federal?
It's still federal. The other item that I have is, I sent an email out earlier today. It has to do with taxes, and so we'll address the caucus meeting and that as part of the new business when we're talking about the tax rate. So that's all that I have. Mr. Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. And before I get in my report, Director Miller did bring something up regarding the retention pond behind Panera. Jeff Smith, you could just stand up. I did want to say thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Jeff was a voice for our city with SD1 at their meetings. And that work has been completed. And like Director Miller said, it does look like they've done the proper measures and steps. And we'll play it by ear and see where things go. It seems to be working so far. Jeffrey, thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate the acknowledgement. And it does look like it's draining pretty good. There's a little bit of water holding over, but I think it'll fine tune itself.
I have a few items I want to cover in my reports. First thing, I sent out an email regarding the city audits. As I said in my email, it's been scheduled for the week of Monday, September 16th. I have the auditor information listed there, in case you were curious, and don't remember who that is. Ben and April, correct me if I'm wrong, but he is our CPA, and he actually was in our office today. And I believe he has started the process of looking over our books to make sure everything is in line for the audits. Will he be here all week, or will he be?
Just today and Wednesday.
And I also have Ben's information listed as well, in case you were curious about Ben himself. Old Crescent Springs preliminary engineering study. This is just a little update. I just wanted to walk everyone through this so that we all have an understanding of the early on steps with this process. So Greg and Brung Engineering, they started this process on the preliminary engineering study for the older part of Crescent Springs. And there's some initial engineering steps that I've included in my reports that will be specific early on. And the first on this list is for the engineer to make recommendations to the city what streets should be converted to one-way traffic. We will need to have eventually an open house for our residents in the area that it affects, whether it's one or two open houses where they come in and Greg and Steve with Growing Engineering talk to them about the process and what are the ideas for the improvements back in this area. The third thing, once the city has passed an ordinance converting those streets to one-way traffic, the engineer will then make general recommendations on improvements to each of the streets. But we need to remember, Steve and Greg are gonna come here and present to us how they feel the traffic flow should be for this area. And those are gonna be the first steps we are gonna have to take measurement-wise as a city. And that will include you guys, because we're gonna have to vote on the ordinance. If we're gonna take the recommendations in and go with them in order for this project to move forward. But we have to listen to the recommendations in order to move this project forward. If we don't do that, then this project is stable. So this is the first step that we have to take in order to move forward. And it's definitely going to be an educational thing for the residents back there, with some of the streets being made to be one way.
Can I ask a question there?
Yes.
Is there any talk or thought about having some kind of subcommittee on this? I mean, this is a big change, impacting a lot of houses, changing traffic, a lot of steps, and a $15,000 check, which we've already caught in next year's budget. But, you know, like when we did the firehouse with the veterans, we had a veterans committee, you know, different things bring up smaller subcommittees. Is there, I mean, is this going to be, this may be worded poorly, but is this going to be a collaborative effort? Or is this going to be Burling and Greg Sketch talking at us or to us about their recommendations? Because it's just trying to figure out how to achieve the best outcome.
Initially, it's going to be, from an engineering standpoint, their recommendations on how the traffic flow should be for the streets that you see that I have listed in my report. It will initially be their recommendations.
To your point, Brian, I think that if we're gonna start changing traffic flow, we have to start somewhere, that's with the recommendation, then I think we're gonna have to go deeper into, you know, what's the correct way to do it, yes.
Right, because there's, the right answer is probably somewhere between their initial report and what we finally come up with, right? I mean, with taking it back, revisions and drafts.
So, we're gonna, I don't think that we're going to sit here and say this is the only way it can be. I think it's gonna cause us to have a great deal of discussion about that, and that we need a committee on it, that's what we'll do.
I think it would be something definitely worth taking a look at. Because it saves the back and forth in here where the committee can be like, hey, look, there are 2 council members and 2 engineers. We all feel comfortable about this and present it out versus take the drafts, change it, take, you know, so.
Once we get part 1, then we can move forward with the next steps.
And ultimately, their advice and guidance from the engineers on the flow is going to help assist with really truly what kind of improvements we can do specifically for each individual street that I have listed. So that will play into that a lot. If we go against their advice, it could hinder us on what kind of improvements that we can make to the streets. But I do like your idea, ultimately, later on, of maybe the mayor obviously will be in charge of that, picking a subcommittee to go over their findings, and, you know, ultimately, that's going to be done in a presentation to our residents as well.
So I have a couple of questions real quick. So it sounds like we're not going to hear anything on costs until after we vote to change streets on right now. Is that it?
That is the first step, and you're not going to hear costs even after you change the streets. Upon approval of the recommendations, then they will proceed with phase 1, final drawing and drafting a detailed design plan to formalize a cost design for FY 2026, 2027.
What if we can afford that? Are we stuck with one-way streets?
If we can't afford it, then we table it.
But what Mark is saying is we've already, at that point, we will have already changed the traffic patterns before we've done any road improvements.
Well, this project is not something that, and I think you guys realize this, is not going to get done overnight. It's going to take years. We haven't even scratched the surface on potential grant funding that we want to look into eventually that could benefit the city and this area for when we move forward. Ultimately, they're going to break this project into 3 phases. So the whole project will not be done at one time. It will be done in parts.
I think that strengthens the argument for a subcommittee for this project.
It's a big project.
And then also, when is like timing of the phase 1? Like, I don't really see much timing on here, so when we talk besides the couple years from now. So when is
phase one could come from ultimately getting guidance when we finally settle on traffic direction, and then the engineers can move forward on the right-of-way process.
Well, so maybe a better question, for bullet point number one, first on this is the engineering recommendations to the city. Hold on, do they have time for that?
For the street direction,
Yes.
he did not give me a timeline. They're working on it, but I can ask.
Or do they have calendars?
Yeah, no, I see. No problem. Director Miller, am I missing anything?
Is it? I just wanted to say that when you do the one-ways, no matter if we do the one-way now or if we do it when the project begins, the one-ways will work out no matter what, if we can reconstruct everything or if we can't reconstruct anything. And then the second point is, it goes to the city engineer, and then obviously we have to run it through the fire, we have to run it through the police, we have to run it through the bus garage, we have to run it through a lot of other things to make sure that it makes sense for everybody. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well.
The other point of that too, was speaking about the one-ways will work regardless if we do anything to the road besides change traffic. Those roads are really narrow.
Yes.
Like, they are not built for comfortable two-way traffic at all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Miller. Appreciate the assist. And one of my last points there, the ultimate goal is to have what's called an existing conditions plan. That's what, we budgeted for with the 15,000, and that's why we placed it in this current budget. And in order for us to move forward with any grants, APRA will respond to this, we have to have plans in place to be able to present that. And I believe you said the Kentucky block grant?
It's one of the community.
The community block grant
It's one that we would like to look into.
for this project, or phases of this project.
What is that phase that worked out?
It's annual, I'm not sure what the deadline is.
Street resurfacing and repairs, we're about ready to start going on this. As we all know, in this approved budget, it's a little over 400,000 for road projects. I've listed them there for you, and obviously up top there is the Harris Street. We do have a number for that, as you see in writing. We did submit for emergency road aid funding. However, we have not received any communication back that we are going to receive it. I'm not saying that might not change tomorrow, but as of right now, we have not received any information back in a positive way. I also have received information from the developer that was thinking about doing a project there at that green space by Harris and Ireland. That is off the table. So that is no longer part of this project, that we have to work into the project itself, and having a curb cut in that area if they were going to put townhomes in that area to where they had an entrance and an exit. Also listed, we have Park Street, Crescent Avenue, the railroad parking lot, which is Crescent Avenue near the railroad tracks, the park and ride at Anderson and Eubanks. Greg has taken a strong look at Overlook by the fire department. He definitely thinks we should do from Firehouse to Buttermilk at this point. Obviously, the construction traffic is going to stop on Overlook, which is a good thing. And that road, if you've not been on it, it is in rough shape. And for our parking lot here at the city building, I don't know if you've taken a look at it lately, but we definitely need to do a crack and seal and a striping of the lot itself. It's needing some attention. And then lastly, it's a repeat of the old Crescent Springs engineering cost of $15,000.
Can we do the firehouse a favor? right outside of Carver's. I know that Director Miller painted it yellow and put a sign for the no parking.
The no parking signs were there, and I guess the fire department painted the lines.
Can we like paint like red striped lines on the road to like show that there's no parking there beyond the yellow curb? Because Kramer's is being a good neighbor and telling their drivers not to do anything, not to park there, I mean, and their drivers aren't listening. I mean, again, you know, just making it dummy proof that you can't park here because fire trucks can't get out. And I mean, just like 2 or 3 feet out, just red stripe in that area. Can we do something like that? Can
Yeah,
we look into that?
I can talk to the mayor and Mr. Daly, and we can see what we can do.
Like, I don't want to add graffiti to the road or anything, but like, they're just not listening to that. And I'd rather have paint on the road than a house.
The resolution of that is for, those, you know, obviously Tom or whoever the Kramers, call us, we'll handle that.
Right, I mean, I
No problem.
I know you're more than willing to do that. I'm just, if we can make it more obvious, like, hey, you're being
We can certainly make it
so smart
obvious.
right now, don't go there. What'd you say?
I said we can certainly make it obvious.
Yeah. Citation at a time.
Tow truck behind you.
The dynamics have definitely changed on that entrance there. So it's definitely something we have to work on because it is the #1 priority to have our fire apparatus be able to get out without any issues.
Right.
Sorry.
No, I mean, at a certain point, we need to make a stand and make it obvious that, hey, you're blocking life-saving equipment. So.
Next on my list, the Northern Kentucky Office of Drug Control Policy, Amanda Peters is going to be at our next meeting, September 23rd council meeting. She will be speaking about the new initiative called the Law Enforcement Navigators and kind of explaining how the opioid settlement funds will be spent. Now, Chief Hall, I know I talked to you about this. Your city is,
They've already gone to the yes. But they're, yes.
so their funding, your funding will be going towards the program.
The city of Villa Hills have already voted that that's where that's going to be, so.
And I also have a handout for you. It has Taylor Mill title on it. It was a good article that was written recently where Amanda was at their council meeting. Take a read of it. It explains the program very thoroughly. And the article explains it very well. On the last page, North Kentucky Area Development District, Perry Johnson Zone with NKADD will be at our next council meeting on the 23rd. She will be presenting on an overview of the ad with updates on programs, initiatives, and activities that's taking place in the community throughout the region. Tara took over a few years back, I think about 2. She is doing a fantastic job in her role for our region in that position. And lastly, I have 2 handouts with my report. One is the free trainings on cannabis on October 22nd. I know Janine signed up recently, but feel free to sign up if you're interested. And the last thing is the public hearing notice, which is coming up next week on the 5th of September. And basically, it's a review of the Kenton County Comprehensive Plan. It's an update, and that's for the Planning Commission. If you're interested in it, it's at 6:15. You're more than welcome to attend.
Where is it at?
The Kenton County Fiscal Court Building, down there in Covington, off of 75. It's about 1840 Simon Kenton Way.
Yeah, I know where it is. Thank you.
2nd floor. Everyone, that's all I have for my report. However, if there's questions for me, I will try to answer them for you.
I have a cannabis question.
Yes.
When is or was the deadline to have the cannabis discussion voted on to be added to the ballot?
It has passed.
It has passed.
Yes, it has passed. I think it passed last week.
Second Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay.
So we, obviously, I think we as a group understand and know this, we fall under the decision that Kenton County government made in their passing.
Well, we can still vote yes or no.
Yes.
Yeah, and so non-action follows Kenton County. Action is either yes or no at this point, or prohibition or allowing of the business. Not that we're getting one.
And you could put it on a ballot down the road, but that's not going to be this fall, that's not going to be 2025, that would have to be 2026. But that would obviously potentially be a whole new makeup of council, or some of the same bases, we don't know.
I have a statement on the auditor. Usually the auditor comes in and gives a big presentation.
Yes.
The fire committee, on their auditor, they determine unless there is something that needed addressing, they're not going to have the auditor come in to do that. I'd like to make the same suggestion for city council. If they don't find anything inappropriate or wrong, unless for some ordinance or reason they need to come in.
For clarity, the audits happen, it's not being pushed off, it's just that.
Yeah, there's
There's
still
not,
an audit.
yeah, there's just not gonna be an hour-long report out to go through 30 pages unless there's anything that's a concern.
I think so.
I believe so. That, you know, it's required by law.
Required by law, okay. Thank you.
I can take a look, but I think it is.
So,
Plus, it
can you
remains
take a-
transparent to our residents.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So they-
You have to do it by law, you can't. You have to present it to the public, you can't.
All right,
Is there-
I didn't mean to interrupt.
with that, just so that we're all clear and being transparent and not doing anything wrong, does that move to the fire authority too? Or is that a non,
I can't answer that fire authority. It's a unique body, and it's got its own rules of
well, I
regulation.
just don't want to step in by accident, because nobody's trying to hide anything, the reports will be available, it's just trying to stay in how.
I understand that, but fire authority is a unique body. It may not necessarily apply. I'm not saying it does, I'm not saying it doesn't. I just don't know. But it has counsel, you can answer.
Say again.
It has counsel, you can ask him.
All right, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any old business? New business, Mr. Baker, ordinance 2024-5.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 2024-5, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, providing for the assessment of real estate and personal tangible property within the corporate limits of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, and levying the ad valorem tax on each $100 of assessed valuation of said property in the city for the fiscal year 2024, 2025, and specifying the purpose for which the tax is levied. Be it ordained by the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, Section 1, the ad valorem tax is hereby assessed and levied for the fiscal year 2024, 2025 against all real estate within the corporate limits of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, at the rate of $0.193 on each $100 of valuation as assessed January 1, 2024, and against all tangible personal property at the rate of $0.198 on each $100 of valuation as assessed January 1, 2024, to be collected as provided by law in the existing ordinances of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky. City tax bills are due October 31st, 2024. Any bill in an amount of less than $1 will be waived by the city, and no such bill need be sent to any taxpayer. Section 2. The ad valorem tax is levied to pay the general cost of carrying on the business of the government of the city is provided in the adopted budget. Section 3, if all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, or to the extent of such conflict, if any, hereby repealed.
Thank you, sir. So I sent that little email to everybody. Mr. Mueller, once I get your city email, I'll forward it on to you tomorrow. I'm asking that we do the compensating rate plus 4. The compensating rate is 0.186. The rate plus 4 is 0.193. That is because we have lots of things that we have to be able to fund. We have a street project that is yet to be determined how much. That's kind of in the background, but we've made commitments to the fire and police. We have the Amsterdam Road project that has about 6 more years at $80,000 a year. We're trying to get some money from municipal road aid for current road projects. Don't know if we will or not. So that is why my request is to what it is. We were reassessed this year, the entire city was. So that's why there is the about 10% rate drop. I think 0.91 something percent, if I remember correctly. I have that in my notes. Approximately 30% of our residents will receive a rate reduction, a tax reduction with these rates. So that is why I'm requesting the compensating plus 4. No one likes to do that, but we have to be able to pay for fire, police, roads, and that type of stuff. There is no vote tonight. We're certainly welcome to have a discussion if people want to discuss, or we can move on at the time and have a discussion next month. And on that note, I'm going to cancel the 9/9 caucus meeting and make that for the 9/10, so the next day, be a special meeting for what would have been the caucus. And is to the first day after advertising that we can do the ordinance for the taxes. We've been saying for months that we're going to have a special meeting. Should be no surprise to anybody. So I want to get it scheduled and handled that way.
And for the record, I'm going to be out west on September 10th, but I have spoken with a member of my office, Dave Steele, and he will be here in my stead to represent the city. And I will have more fun than you.
Amen. Hearing no discussion on that, we'll move to the next point. This is from Councilman Smith, discussion on process and procedures for council members to preside over meetings in the absence of the mayor. So.
Well, I think it's well needed, that it's sort of like the Alice in Wonderland, if you don't know where you're going, how you're going to get there. And I think it's kind of up in the air where, when we do have a pro tem, chief, whatever, mayor, whatever you want to call it, I think we should set down guidelines. Mr. Baker, I believe you were sort of supportive of that too.
The member of council has to be a member of council.
Okay.
Start with that. Secondly, the title would be presiding officer.
Okay.
And all that person does is preside at the meeting, calls the agenda. That person retains the right to vote as a member of council. That person does not have any of the, I'll use the term, right and privileges of the mayor, other than simply follow the agenda that is set for that meeting. That person can be designated by ordinance if council so chooses, or one can be selected at the meeting. Those are the options set forth in the section.
So what I would like to see is to decide now, or we have an ordinance we're going to decide who would be that pro tem chair, whatever you want to call it.
It was Bill Schultz, and he left.
And that's not by KRS, that's by tradition of the highest vote getter of council.
Well,
Yes.
Selected.
well, let me be clear, on it. It doesn't have to be that.
Right.
The mayor, in the annual list of various appointments that are made, asked Mr. Schultz to do that because he was the top vote getter, but it's really at the pleasure of council, if I could use that term. It doesn't have to be that. No. So if council wishes to designate a specific method, I can certainly direct the ordinance.
Because we all voted on the ordinance, right, the bill. So we all just said no there, and then had discussions, saying, well, we don't like the way you picked.
Right.
Of one sentence.
Correct.
It seems very, I don't know, it seems unnecessary or duplicative. If Bill were here and he had not moved to Villa Hills, none of this would have been a question. So I don't know why we change something now. I mean, maybe we make a resolution that if the person who was selected by ordinance leaves council for whatever reason, the mayor then does it again. I mean, instead of having it, I don't know,
Or two.
yeah, it's just, I mean, it seems like ordinance for the sake of ordinance.
Again, that appointment of Mr. Schultz was voted on by council.
Correct.
That's right. I'm sure you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
No, but he was saying, could we also just put like a backup plan in that same ordinance, that's all, I think, right?
Sure.
Like how sort of get to what you're getting at.
I think it would be the integrity of the council to be able to have some kind of guidance, rules, and regulations to follow, because we really did not have any, and it did cause some issues.
Well, we did have rules and regulations, but Mark didn't act as the mayor, he acted as a council member and somebody running a meeting, as opposed to anything else, he was an administrator of the meeting. I mean, we did follow the rules and regulations. And
We did get the vote.
So,
There were no objections.
Council did not vote.
maybe.
And Mr. Baker said that was an error and that we
Correct.
address in the future.
Well,
So we have rules and regulations.
Roll call. Roll call.
Yeah, he didn't
Yes.
say there
Roll call.
wasn't a vote, he shouted that there was a vote.
I think there was a.
Exactly, so
But there was
we
not a
followed
roll call.
through.
There's not a roll call, and I would say that, but maybe, meeting is valid.
What actually happened?
How would it invalidate the meeting though? That's what I don't understand. How would it invalidate anything that happened in the meeting? All it is somebody going down an agenda. It's not somebody steering conversations. It's not somebody adding a second vote. It's not like if Mark ran the meeting, he had two votes now, one as a council member, one as the mayor to break a tie. Like that didn't happen. And I think that this is a nonsensical conversation.
Oh, sorry, you disagree, sir.
I mean, it's the
I think rules
foundation
and
of it.
regulations, process and procedures are essential to the guidance of the integrity of our council.
Mr. Baker, I'll work with you over the next month, and we'll see what kind of plan we can develop. And the other thing that Councilperson Smith wanted was a discussion on processes and procedures to filling a council vacancy. That was, I mean, those are very well laid out in the KRS, so I was not here, so I have watched it. So what is your?
Well, what I think, Mike, you have looked for some process and procedures that other cities have used,
Yes.
and I think we should do the same. I think Mr. Baker can help us work on it, that would be great. I think one thing you should possibly be is a resident, that's for sure. And also that you should be a voter in the city of Crescent Springs. I think there is a timeline there, which is important to be a resident of Crescent Springs.
And I think what Janine's referring to, and it was something I just picked up
We
on,
did.
is with the city of Alexandria and Campbell County, Kentucky, they do an application.
Correct.
something we need to remember in this room. When it comes to a council vacancy, ultimately, the mayor and city staff, we have nothing to do with it. It is up to you guys as legislators, as 6 members or 5 members. It's up to you guys to pick that person. You guys can even call a special meeting, as it were, please. A majority. The mayor doesn't even have to be here for that, and you guys can select the candidate you want for that vacancy. So really, truly, with this discussion, it's up for the 6 of you to discuss this, to figure out what you want, and, you know, what it's gonna be in the future if we have a vacancy. Obviously, we're running out of time for this year, and we have an election in November. But at the end of the day, it doesn't come back to city staff or the mayor. It's you guys to have this discussion and to figure out what you want.
But this is the point I'm going to make, and I made this to Ms. Smith and me. The statute sets out that, you know, there's an age requirement, there's a residency requirement. And this issue of whether one must be a registered voter is not at all clear. But that would be it. And while a written application form that I might share with us from the city of Alexandria would be helpful to members of council, I'm sure. By no means am I indicating to you that that would bar someone from appearing at the meeting where you select someone, and barring that person from expressing an interest. Now, as members, individual members of council, you may determine that you are not going to support that person because you view it as tardy, or you view it as improper, or you view it as polite, that they just waited to the last second. But that no one who meets the other qualifications is, I'm going to put this in quotation marks, barred from appearing at that meeting and announcing his or her interest, because that would be outside of the statute of KRS. So, but ultimately, as Mike said, it is up to each of you individually, or whoever's on the council. And you can take all sorts of matters into account that are not stated in the statute. So, you know, if you determine that the fact that they showed up and that's it, that is disqualifying for you, that's perfectly fine. But as the city cannot take a position that that person's fine. So that's why, you know, the mayor was well within, actually not just well within, right? Performed, in my view, completely accurately. I called if there was anyone else interested tonight, other than 3 city candidates, because I think anybody can show up as long as they meet the other qualifications. And that was an issue with Mr. Falk, who was here last time. There is a question about length of residence, because there is a stated length of residency to be elected to council. To me, follows logic, which isn't always applied in statutes, that a member of council should be a resident for at least a year. So that's all I can say.
Well, on the residency issue, we should be able to get documentation that an individual has lived here for a year. And the gentleman that walked in here last time, we did not know that. Somebody just said, well, he was. And I think we should get documentation.
He did say that it was.
Well, he said he was, but I do believe that we're going to offer a seat, a very special seat, as a legislator, that we should have a bio and get to know this individual, see if it would work with our staff, work with our council, and work with our rules and morals that we have here,
Well, again,
and our values.
to Mr. Baker's point, even if you don't, someone can come to a meeting and identify themselves. Whether you choose to elect that person, that's your decision. But that can't bar someone coming in the night of the meeting and saying, I want to be considered.
Well, that's true of any type of nomination. You have your nominating committee, and then you basically get anybody that wants to stand up and say, you know, I want to nominate so-and-so, and someone who's not within the group that they have just in the nominating committee. I got that. But what are we doing now? I do believe, April, what did you put out on the website regarding the filling of the vacancy? You do ask for a bio within 30 days?
Yes, we request a bio.
Yeah. So that should be an ordinance, request a bio, and you have to do it within 30 days. Then I would think an individual that would just happenstance walk by.
But if they could just walk in.
Again, to Mr. Baker's point, we cannot stop someone from walking in.
I got that.
And whether you choose, and anybody chooses not to vote for that person, that's their prerogative. They have to be a resident of some length and an age. That's the statute. We can have any other artificial, maybe I'm using the wrong word, but any other artificial measure as you want, whether there's a bio, whether they have blonde hair, whether they're 7 foot tall, whether they're a voter. Those are all things that we would want to know, but the statute is age and residency. And that's all that we can enforce. We can ask for more. But age, if I understand Mr. Baker.
I agree, you can ask for more, that was my contention, to ask for more, so that we get the highest individual that is most interested in our council. I mean, there's all sorts of scenarios where it could be somebody that would be coming here off the wall.
Again, allow me to go back to the last, I think the last filling of the vacancy is an aberration in many respects. Not the least of which is time. You have a strict time limit. And at the time of that meeting, we were on day 28, I think, very late into the cycle. We only have 30 days. So tonight, if council had, tonight is day 1. So if council had determined we want more information and we'll come back in 2 weeks and then make a decision, you would have that opportunity to do so. That was not present at the last time, and that is, I'm going to suggest, very unusual. So, I mean, you could let it go by, and then it's not your choice at that point, it becomes the governor's choice. There is a default in the statute. The governor fills it if you do not fill it within 30 days of the vacancy starting. Now, built into the statute, it's not when the letter of resignation is submitted, it's when the next meeting of council is convened. So there's always a time limit. And it just so happened in this one, there was a meeting and the council elected to put it off. And it ended up being 28 days. So that is not normal.
The other thing that's interesting to me is that we're asking, or it's being asked to change the process that was followed tonight, and was followed, Ms. Smith, when you were appointed. But now all of a sudden we want to change it. Because you were appointed when Mr. Doherty became mayor, and then you became a councilwoman. But you're asking, I don't understand the need for all this additional change now, when it's a system that we follow that worked just fine tonight and prior. But we didn't break anything, we didn't do anything wrong. We followed the same exact procedure. I guess I just don't see what your axe is that you're writing here.
It was the same procedure when I stepped up to council, and I was head of the council prior to Ms. Smith.
I mean, I get that the outcome has a little bit of egg on our face here, mainly mine. Let's just be honest, it's fine. I'll take it. But at the end of the day, we still follow the same procedure, so why do you want to change something that works?
We're not changing anything, we're just
You're
trying to.
suggesting that, though.
Like, I think what Mr. Baker just said, if we can get that right now for clarification. And as far as we relating that back to me, I think that's a good point there, my friend.
No, it's not. It's
Oh, yes, it
exactly the
is.
same
Let's do
procedure.
that.
Let's not get.
3 people here have followed
Let's
the same
move on.
procedure to get appointed to this body, and we followed it to the T. I don't understand what the changes. You can choose to take it personally if you want, but it wasn't personal. It was
No,
just
I
a
think
second
that
lapse.
person clarified, it's a moot point.
No, it's not. We followed the same procedure that you're asking for additional changes to.
I'm not asking for a change, I'm asking to add to the rules and regulations. There was a matter of guidance on what, excuse me, I have the floor, on what we did not have the last time we were filling this vacancy. We did not have the rules and regulations and procedures that we needed to follow. Had that been happening, it might have been a whole different scenario.
No, that's not true. We followed it.
Did we break any rules, Mr. Baker, the last
This is
time?
ridiculous.
No.
Exactly.
So what rules were broken?
The difference that is here is that I'm putting words in your mouth, so feel free to correct. Is that Ms. Bell-Smith wants to know who the candidates are before the night of the meeting. I understand that. I'm not discouraging that. Except, I'm saying you can't bar someone.
I agree.
And if someone shows up and that person makes his or her intentions known, and there are a sufficient number of council members who believe that person, that's the way democracy works. That is in compliance with the statute. We cannot impose, as a citizen, a requirement that is more, that's not the right word, but, that is
Restrictive?
more difficult than what the statute says. We have to comply with the statute, and it's fair to ask any person, and I know 3 people who expressed interest tonight, they've been a resident, I know my own, they're resident of the city long enough, they're old enough, and they meet all the other qualifications. It's just up to council to determine which person that they want to start with. You know, picking Mr. Mueller doesn't say anything that's negative about either Mr. Longbottom or Mr. Smith. That's the way the system works. So I understand it's okay to ask people to fill out an application, but it is not okay to say we, as a city, you can't be considered because you didn't fill out an application. You, as a member of council, can make that individual determination, but not the city as a whole cannot impose that requirement.
According to KRS,
Correct.
by the Constitution.
If they change the statute, then we will abide by the change.
But when you walk into a voting booth, you gotta re-register to vote.
I am not going to,
The rules
I'm
are
not going to
there.
state that right now.
It gives us procedure,
I
it gives
will
us
look at that
integrity.
issue. I will look at that issue.
Thank you all. Moving on, committee reports. Any additional reports?
Safety pretty well got covered with Matt Hall.
Fire with chief as well. And Carol's comments.
I'll give Don credit too on safety.
We had a public works meeting prior to this meeting. One of the items that I was asked by a new residents of the city is more trash cans throughout the city. So, some of those get to it.
That sounds like an easy one. Let's just be.
I agree.
Good. Any citizen comments?
Appreciate it, Mike. Appreciate the acknowledgement on that
Can
Panera
you come to the
Con.
podium?
Jeff, can you report?
Oh,
Thank you,
Got
because
two
I
bad
had
knees, that's
people
all.
tell me they could not hear when they're listening to them on Facebook.
I just want to say, appreciate it, Mike, for the acknowledgement on that Panera Pond. I know Tanya put a lot of hours in on phone calls as well. Sat down at a 3-hour meeting, and we got it taken care of, and that's all that matters. So appreciate the acknowledgement, and thank you much.
Thank you, Jeff.
I know Mr. Flaherty said he stepped out for a drink of water, so we'll just wait just a second to see if he has anything.
Citizen comments.
Yes, sir. We're waiting for you.
Well, thank you. You knew I was going to say
Well, I
something.
had a feeling you didn't sit here for
I
almost
re-
2 hours.
I really wasn't going to say anything till you all started talking about new business pretty much. And I do have some comments and some questions, which I'm curious about, is Old Crescent Springs. It seems that it was not initiated by residents. So why are we doing this? Has there been an economic analysis, like the cost benefit?
The roads are in very poor condition, so we need to do something to the roads. I don't know if you, how long it's been since you've been back there.
Oh, I've been back there recently,
The
actually.
roads are very, very bad. They're really only good for one way. I mean, the roads are so narrow, and if you have parking on the roads and try to get two-way traffic there. So we're trying to be proactive on making the city better.
That's good, but have any of the residents complained about the roads?
Yes, sir.
They have,
Yeah,
okay.
they've come to Director Miller, they've come to April, they've come to me. And Tanya,
The flooding.
the flooding, I think, is the
Yes.
number one thing that always
Yes.
keeps coming up, just because that area back there is so underdeveloped when it comes to infrastructure wise, that there are people back there who would like to see change.
So, as far as an economic benefit, we don't know what that is. I mean, it's a goodwill, social benefit to the people that live there, but there's no economic benefit for the city. Is that right?
Sure there is. I think you improve that area specifically to, not only does it benefit your homeowners, but it benefits them when they eventually put their house up for sale. And it benefits people coming into our community, thinking about buying a home in that area.
Okay, I don't want to argue that point, but it'll be interesting to see what the cost is
Right.
when you get that. Yeah. Okay, my next question is, I just want to make sure that the taxes are going up 4%. Is that right?
That is what I'm asking.
I understand.
4% of the compensating rate. The rate is actually going down.
Understand.
Approximately 10%, but I'm asking for the compensating plus 4.
Yeah, I understand. I understand compensating rate plus 4, and I did a quick analysis of my taxes, and it's going to go up 4%, which is not a big dollar amount, but it's still 4%. Along with the Old Crescent Springs development, does Berlin Engineering have expertise in traffic engineering?
Yes.
They do? Okay. Because I think it would be good to do a traffic impact study on the changes of the routes, dumping it on the Western Reserve. Probably be the same traffic, but I don't know about the impact.
Different point of entry.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear they have traffic engineering expertise. Last comment is on the discussion on process and procedures for a council member to preside over the meeting in the absence of the mayor. I reviewed the video. Are you paying attention, Mark? Or okay. I reviewed the video a few times, and I did not see a vote or a roll call, either one, on the video.
I think we determined that there wasn't a vote.
Well, I didn't see it on video, so you must have taken
They
it.
determined there was not a vote,
Not a
but they
roll call.
determined if they did ask if anybody was opposed.
Oh, okay, well, I'll go back and review the video again because I didn't see that. My point is, I think it's probably a good idea to have some kind of process and procedure for that. Traditionally, you did have the highest vote getter preside at the meeting in your absence.
The last few mayors before me did not. I know the one immediately before me did not. However, as I stated, I'm going to use Mr. Baker this month.
Okay, well, that's good. I think it helps the process and eliminates any kind of problems with the procedure and process if you have it nailed down. I don't have any objection to Mark running the meeting, think you did an okay job. I would like for you to speak up a little more and enunciate a little more, but as far as running the meeting, I think you did an okay job. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I did want to ask one other thing. Who are the representatives of the fire authority? I'm sorry. Who are the actual representatives of the fire authority on City of Crescent Springs? For the City of Crescent Springs?
So, Mr. Hackett, Mr. Barclay, and Sue, yes, and it comes from a different line.
Hackett, Barkley, and who else? I'm sorry?
Sue
Cassidy.
Sue Cassidy is the chair right now,
Okay.
rotates through,
But we only have one you're the only representative here for the
only
city?
elected representative.
Okay. And then how many does Villa Hills have? I'm
They
just
have
curious.
4.
They have 4?
Not 4 elected.
They have 4 members, we have 3 members.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the fire department has 2, I believe.
Gotcha.
2, I
Okay.
believe.
Perfect. All right.
And
Appreciate
that aligns with that split as well, right?
Population.
Yeah, right, correct.
Population
40-60.
split, funding
Yeah,
split and all
right.
that. So,
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm the only elected member.
Okay.
Pat is a citizen member, and then Sue Cassidy is
Gotcha.
the chair and citizen member.
The only thing I'd ask, I guess the reason I'm asking is through this whole process, it's been, 2.5 years or better now, seems like. There hasn't been a whole lot of, other than the chief, just advising of the numbers, whatnot. There hasn't been a whole lot of discussion on, that extra $3 million over expenditure, where all that money was applied to. So I guess in the future, that probably needs to be taken care of. Because there just wasn't a whole lot of discussion on where that extra money.
$3 million that you're talking about.
Well, I don't really want to talk about it now because I know it's been a long night. I know, but we'll talk about it in another meeting. Sure. Okay, yeah, well, here, I'll ask you this. Well, let me back up real quick. At the initial meeting, when they had the fire authority meeting, it was a televised one, not televised, but it was a video conference. The initial meeting, it was the first meeting they had.
So, 3 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like a long time ago. But
Everybody in this room except for Carol and Bob Mueller
were you on then?
No.
Okay. Well, anyhow, they stated that it was a $5.3 million project, and they said that, and this was a council member from Villa Hills, and then it just blew up to $8.5 million. So I'm just curious, where did that extra $3 million? There just wasn't a whole lot of discussion through this council where that $3 million was attributed to.
So as the representative of the fire authority on this council, I cannot speak to conversations that happened 3 years ago.
Sure.
when I was on department.
Right.
But I will tell you that, that budget amendment happened, and then we nailed it to a T as far as 8.5 million allocated and 8.5 million spent, with 200,000 coming back. Give or take 200, give or take a few hundred.
Well, my question is just, I'd like to know where that $3 million extra expenditures, what it paid for is what I'd like to
I
know.
think I might be able to just add some clarity. That was the estimate given to us by a builder back in the day.
Right.
3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever it was. Then COVID came. Then you had all the issues with deliveries and transportation. And
Right.
So by the time we actually went to a firm bid, the firm bid was well over 9. Then we deducted items off the list to get down to that 8.5, to make it so that it's something that we hopefully could afford. So the number was originally what a builder told us they thought it would be.
5.3.
5.3, 5.5.
Right.
Then.
Well, the reason I'm saying, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the reason I'm asking that is because that council member said we were very happy with that number, and I got the actual verbiage in here.
I would have gone with that number.
Yeah, exactly.
And
But
and not all the transportation
right.
issues.
But there wasn't a whole lot of discussion where that money went, and I understand what you're saying, the COVID and whatnot, but they just didn't discuss saying, hey, we paid an extra $1 million for the steel. They didn't actually go into that discussion. At least I didn't, wasn't part of it, or at least I didn't hear it.
The 5.3 number that we knew that was going to be $1 million for steel, 700,000 for bricks. I don't know. I don't have
Right.
the numbers in front of me right now to be able to
Sure.
articulate clearly. it's the same building that was, a smaller building is there now than what was envisioned 3 to 5 years ago. One of the bays was taken off, there were some,
Fire
roofs
tower.
taken off it. You know, it was smaller to try to make that number, to get there as close as we could.
Volunteers for landscaping. That's
Yeah,
what we got now.
Well, like I said, I'm just curious about that 3 million. I would like to see, you know, maybe some paperwork that says, hey, here's where we went from 5.3 to 8.5 or whatever it was. I mean, it's just a little more clarity, and since the fire authority doesn't want to, you know, tape their meetings, I think, you know, there should be a little more clarity there and a little more discussion on, you know, because that's a lot of money. I mean,
I'll talk to Mr. Cahill and see.
Well, Mr. Cahill's been first class. He's given me a lot of information, but like I said, just the discussion wasn't there, you know. You know, they can throw paperwork around all they want, but the citizens aren't seeing it, you know. So that's my beef is, you know, $3 million is a lot of money.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you much.
Is there a possibility to video these fire authority meetings?
We've had that discussion before.
Yeah, I know, but can we make that happen?
They're not going to do it.
It's up to them.
It's up to the fire authority, it's not gonna happen.
Excuse me, please let me, is that again?
It's, the fire authority said they're not going to take it.
They're not going to do it, they agreed not to do it, okay.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second, Mr. Mueller? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Thank you.
I should let you make the motion to adjourn. Too long.
I wonder if you survived and didn't forget.